Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we're here today to discuss chapters 9 through 12, Katerina, of the Judging Eye. Katerina ran
Yes,
ahead a
I'm
little bit.
here.
Yeah.
Mm, Just a
So we're
little
here to
bit.
just, yeah. So it's my first time reading the books, and we're here with Katerina and Daniel. Katerina, would you give us an introduction?
Yes. Hi, I'm Katerina. I might have read a little bit ahead by a chapter or so, but very excited to be here with you again. And this is my second time reading The Judging Eye. I've been mostly doing the audio, which, although I was a bit hesitant initially, is actually pretty good. So I've been enjoying this reread a lot.
Nice. And Daniel?
And I am Daniel, and I have read these books a couple times before. So hopefully I can guide Steve along and help answer Katerina's questions. And hopefully it helps anybody who listens, if anybody listens.
I think a couple of people listening. So if you are or watching, thank you for coming on the journey with us.
I'm trying to
The
talk.
list,
I'm
the
trying
list
to
of my
talk to
questions.
people in like 2032. That's who I'm talking to.
Could be.
The list of my questions is growing. That's for sure.
Yeah. Seems like there's more and more every time. So on starting with chapter 9, these chapters were kind of I was expecting something to like blow up or something crazy to happen, but it's kind of more establishing a couple of new characters and kind of um, seems like we're building up a little bit. I did enjoy. Well, I guess we'll get to that later, but I did enjoy hearing other people talk about Kellis and the Holy War that we didn't know, that they're kind of learning about it, like what history, kind of recalling history and what they went through, what their families went through, and kind of the way that everyone sees Callus or how they think of him. But um, we do hear a little bit about Sammy hearing us when we think. He's not
Well,
quite gone.
apparently the dead can hear everything. But can they actually?
Maybe he's just not dead. He's still alive in his head.
He's alive
Well,
somewhere.
that's one theory. I don't know, this whole thing about Kalmomas and things he says, like I always wonder, is he like just trying to drive Esmenet slowly insane? Or is he actually getting at something?
I'm not sure if this is what it is, but it almost seems like he's toying with her. Like he's just kind of pressing her buttons and manipulating her just for his own amusement. But there may be a bigger. I mean, like with Callus, there's no mistakes, there's no accidents, so maybe he has some kind of a plan.
Well, it seems like maybe the voice has a plan. I'm not sure about Kalmomas. Like Kalmomas seems to act on an instinct quite frequently. Um, but there's yeah, it seems like he sort of does try really hard to make Esmenet feel guilty about Sammy dying and about her neglecting Kalmomas as a result, um, in order to manipulate her and make her more attached to him, I guess.
I took it as he has some kind of weird infatuation with her, and he's trying to like isolate her in every way that he can and make himself necessary because he wants all of her attention. That might be how he's broken.
They can be
Well, it
underwater.
clearly is broken.
But it seems like he wants her attention more than anything else he wants besides just hurt things. seems to like to hurt things, kind of. Even if it's just stabbing the earth, right?
Mm.
But I even kind of got a little sad when he was telling us that I could not be me anymore. I could be Sammy. Poor little kid, if he wasn't a psychopath.
I think it made me more sad, made me feel more sad for Asmonette than Kelmomis. I actually enjoy these few chapters. I think you get a really good sense of her grief and the impossibility of her situation, and sort of the conflict between her being the empress who has to be strong and sort of maintaining this illusion of power and control, and also just being a mother who has lost her child and is surrounded by people who don't or not able to show any affection to her, or are straight out there to stab her in the back the first moment they get the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, it almost feels like the walls are closing in on her. Like she's has all this self doubt, and she's, kind of doesn't want to have all this. She doesn't want this burden almost, and she has this. She's doubting herself, and they keep having to talk her back into. This is what the kind of, I forget what exactly Kellis tells her, but this is our curse. This is what we have to deal with. We can't choose one or the other. We have to just follow the path. So I think that probably drive anyone insane, right? I mean, after a while, except unless you're Kellis, then.
Yeah, what did you think of his entrance? Because we haven't seen him for the like 200 pages or so. Like he's been sort of kept at distance. Now he's finally shown up.
I liked his entrance. He makes an entrance, but um, his his speech and making that woman cower and urinate on herself and everything. I think I liked seeing that because it was kind of neat to see what he's become.
I thought it was very theatrical.
Mm.
Very a lot of drama. But I liked what he says. I think he tells you something like, wait, what is it? Something about like be happy you can breathe or something. Like, yeah, he says, taste your breath, for it is the mark of my mercy. That was maybe a little bit over the top. But he is, like, they all think he's the god, so I guess he has to make those kind of declarations. It comes with the job.
That's to keep up appearances.
And then his little spying son was hearing like extra in utterals, but not magic, right? Which means he's like lulling people into some sort of trance, maybe.
Yeah,
Who
it
knows how he
seems.
does it or what he does, but he woos people.
Yeah, it seems it's not just psychological manipulation, but also there's some like biological factors involved in that as well. It almost makes me wonder if you can produce some kind of like pheromones
Mm.
to make people more, keen on him and what he has to say.
He charms people.
He certainly does.
There was a
And
quote he told Essenet that was, "Whose most live on the edge of heartbeats, trusting their betters in the blind eyes of habit to see them further, where few can apprehend the span of entire lives. But you and I do not possess either luxury. We must act according to the dictates of ages, or there will be no ages for anyone to live. And this makes us appear cold, merciless, even monstrous, not only to others and ourselves, but to the hundred as well. We walk the shortest path, the labyrinth of the thousandfold thought." This is the burden the god has laid upon us, and the burden that the god begrudge. That was pretty hardcore. Maybe there's a
Basically,
reason
yeah.
to his monstrosity. Except for
Yeah,
Lilith.
he's basically saying that he can see further than the gods, that he can see beyond them, and that they are not able to comprehend the thousandfold thought, right?
And maybe he's right, or maybe he's gone mad like his dad told him.
That could also be an explanation, yeah.
The basically, if he and Espinette don't follow through, then there is no future. Basically, is what he's telling her, right? So if we don't follow this path, then it's the end. No pressure.
Yeah, it's very heartless of him, because she's like, "Oh, have you come to comfort me because our son is dead?" He's like, "Well, we have more important things to do because the world is ending and we got to save it."
Yeah, he didn't seem too bothered by that whole thing.
Yeah, it seems like Sammy is just an afterthought for him anyways. And he's trying to manipulate Esminette so that she sort of accepts that as the truth. And I guess the more important thing for Callus is that she remains in control, at least to some extent. Like, that's what he cares about most. And they have this like discussion about why she should be the one, why she should be the empress, and why she's in control, like, is in charge of the empire. When there's Maithanet, who objectively probably is a more competent ruler, or he probably has the potential to be a more competent ruler. And he does say something about Esminette, like, or about Maithanet not being pure enough. Like it seems like he almost imply that because Maithanet is Dunyan, or at least part Dunyan, somehow he is not immune to the white luck and to the gods, the conspiracy of the 100. But it wasn't very clear. It was very like, he did insinuate some things, but I wasn't exactly sure what he meant, or like what made him choose Esminette over Maithanet.
He told her, "The white luck shall break against you," and then said he chose her because the anguish that makes mud of all your thoughts, because the fear that stains your days, because all your regret and anger and loneliness, all this makes you pure. And Maithanet might not be so pure.
Yeah, I think it's safe to assume he does not feel lonely, or he doesn't feel afraid.
But is this just Kellis magic words? Is that really what makes you pure? I reflect back on them saying that, like, a snake is guaranteed to go to heaven, pretty much. but what animal was it again? I can't remember.
I think it was a pig or a wolf or something.
It was some kind of innocent creature.
Or was it a rabbit? Wasn't there a rabbit? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was a rabbit. A rabbit definitely goes to hell, but snakes, they're somehow good.
Poor rabbits. Yeah, you started really feeling really really badly for Esminette because you can tell she's struggling, and I wonder why Mathanet doesn't have a bigger role in all this. But he did a lot in the first series. I thought in the first trilogy, he did a lot of. He accomplished a lot. I think it's so. Why him and not her? Why her and not him?
Maybe there's a reason that Callus doesn't trust him. I mean, he was Moengus' son after all. And Callus got rid of Moengus. So maybe he's not. I don't know, maybe he doesn't trust Maintenance enough to actually give him all that power, but he still trusts him enough to keep him the Shrial seat, so I don't know. I guess it's all speculation at this point.
Yeah. I mean, if Callus is doing it, it's for a purpose, right?
If he sees further than the gods, who knows how much he foresees.
I loved when I forget which kid says it, but was it? I can't pronounce his name. But he's talking about Callus in one of the later chapters, and he says, "Well, my father's a god," so it's very matter of fact. Oh yeah, by the way. So.
Yeah, I wish I could say that about my father. That would be something.
That would be something.
I would even be fine with my father just being a superhero. But God would be cool too.
I guess I would be fine with my dad just being normal dad. But I'm not even sure he always achieves in that. Achieves being that, so.
So yeah, I guess it depends on your dad and whether or not you'd want him to be that level. So the next chapter was, I think the next chapter was surreal.
Can we just can we also just go quickly to the White Light Warrior?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was the next chapter.
Oh yeah, that's right. How they're written down. I skipped it.
Did you notice it was strangely written, Steve?
Yes, I do notice now. I've been paying more attention. I don't want to be shamed anymore on the podcast.
It's okay. Yeah, it's strangely also written in the present tense, which makes me wonder: is there any connection between Mymara and the White Light Warrior? I've not figured out anything yet. Like I don't really have any idea what it could be. But it is strange that those are the two characters that get to be written in the present tense.
There was a cat in the first series. That
was
gets
it?
killed by a little swathi doll.
Was it in the present tense?
Yeah, it was
okay, weird. I don't remember that. Now I feel shame.
My bad. I don't try to shame anybody. I'm just trying to have fun. Oh, you're muted, Steve.
Sorry, I was taking a drink of my tea. Yeah, I just was celebrating that I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who missed it. So, although I missed it like 10 times and Katerina missed it once, so I'll take it.
I guess I was just weirded out by the fact that we got a POV from a cat, so I wasn't paying too much attention to the tenses. I'll have to go back and reread it. So okay, so there's a cat, Mymara, and the White Light Warrior. That makes it even more difficult to find a connection between those three.
This is true. And that Patsman Nanafari section was probably the worst thing I've read. I don't know why it appalled me so much, but during the drinking of the stuff ritual, that was just almost I wanted to skip it.
Well, I found it very interesting, but I mean it was a little bit not extreme, like that's not necessarily the word I would use, but it's just like I was like, what is what you're doing? What? Okay. But I did find it interesting because so we already heard about the Yaturian cult and them being worshipped by like the lower class people and by the people who are kind of at like the bottom of the hierarchy. And like this whole scene was very much about Yatwer and her followers kind of taking their power back or like deciding to fight back. Um, and also like almost like it's like the female and the male elements are kind of coming together. Like you have the mother Yatwer, and then you have the white leg warrior, and they're sort of like Yatwer like goes from being giver to being a taker. Like she takes the white leg warrior's youth um from him, and then he gets like old but like strong. And I mean that part was a little bit confusing. um so it was like there was like a lot of symbolism that I've not probably deciphered very well, but it's a very interesting scene. It's a little bit bizarre, on the bizarre side, I guess, but I quite enjoyed it.
And then right at the beginning, she like, what does she say? She says that she talks about one of the White Lux warriors' descendants, like fleeing and giving birth on a river 1,400 years ago. Like, oh, 700 years ago this happened. So somehow she's able to know those things, which are pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
How much past does she know? Tellus uses the past to see in the future. How much past does Patsy Ferry have?
Well, she seems to have some sort of a connection to the goddess, so I would assume that the goddess has Yatwer has been around for a while. So it would make sense to me that she knows a little bit about the history of people. And I guess it is Yatwer who chose the White Light Warrior. Or at least maybe there was some kind of a deal made between her and Gilgal. I don't know. Like those are all just like wild speculations. I don't think we actually learn this, but that's what I would assume.
Who knows?
I don't.
The gods are probably real, though, or a god. Still might only be one god.
Tell us.
He calls Yatwer his sister, right? Like,
Yeah,
his sister's dumb. I'll take war to her home or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they also there's so at the beginning of the scene, Esmenet has to paint her face with her son's ashes, and then at the end of the chapter, Sutman and a fairy paints the sort of like the other type of sort of ritual marking. She paints the white like warrior red with like red lines in his cheeks, which I think is supposed to be a symbol of war. And I guess it's kind of like a yin yang situation. Like the two are like in opposition, but also like complementary to each other. Well, I guess if you have war, then it makes sense you have death as well. And I don't know what's supposed to symbolize or mean, but it's just there's some kind of mirroring going on.
The blood and the seed.
Sorry. Yeah, just this book is something else. Blood and seed. Yeah.
I had that written down here for some reason, and then ooh next to it.
You have two more written down next to it?
Ooh. It just says
ooh.
ooh.
Oh,
Ooh with a bunch of W's.
Yeah. There's been a few ooh moments.
It did seem like Pat Smith traded strength for youth. It talks about how the White Luck Warrior's hands got calloused. And so we can assume he's not just some little descendant of some random person anymore. Because I think he also was like, I walk, I breathe. So that might be him awakening, or
yeah. I am the White Luck. I walk, I breathe.
Does that mean the Outward just killed the guy that was originally in his body?
That's kind of what I took it as. Like he's taking over, or it's not his vessel anymore.
I guess I read it. The way I read it, I thought he was like transformed. Well, like he was supposed to die, right? He was supposed to die in the earthquake. So it's almost like his life got extended, but for a particular purpose. So can you really say he was so like if he was already like if he was possessed by one of the gods, like was he actually himself anymore before he was like kind of solidified as the White Luck Warrior in that ritual? I don't know. But I don't think he's the same person that he was when he was young and like right before the earthquake.
So if you had to choose from one control power, the control power of Yatwar to just completely consume the soul, or Kellis just slightly manipulating someone.
Slightly?
Worse. Yeah, just slightly guiding the conversation. It's like a year of political news all in one sentence for people. He just guides their daily lives, it seems like.
I guess with Callus, you don't even often know that you were being manipulated. Like, I guess ignorance is bliss. So maybe. Yeah, I think I'm becoming a little bit disillusioned. Maybe it's better just not to know. Maybe it's better just to live in an illusion.
Live in the Matrix.
Yeah, basically. Well, I mean, if you don't know, like, what does it matter, right?
Ignorance is bliss is a really old quote.
Until you're hanging upside down with Kellis, dying.
Or you're that.
That's unfortunate.
That guy
but
thinking he should have killed his daughter and his kids before he got captured, so they didn't get worse than killed by him.
I guess, do you want the illusion of control, or do you just want to give it all up? I mean, because with Kellis, at least you have the illusion. You can believe that you're in control, but you aren't.
No, I mean, I often think I'm in control, but then I think back on the things I did today, and I'm like, what, like, where did all this come from? So I feel like that's already the situation I find myself in. So it wouldn't be that much of a change.
Just keep the status quo where it is.
Yeah, it's pretty comfortable.
Yeah, but what the illusion you
Like,
have now is like, I forgot my computer at work, but with Kellis, it's like, I started a holy war. There's varying degrees of.
yeah, I have issues with like I have authority issues sometimes. I'm not sure I could be compelled to join a holy war, to be honest. Um, I can't. It's really hard for me to get like excited about like um, things that involve a lot of people. You know, like I hate group sports. I don't. You know, if there's a world championship, I don't care about our team if they win or if they lose. Like, so I feel like I'm not the type of person that would get like really excited about going to invading another country and sacking the spiritual capital
What
of
if it
my
was like
people.
Egypt though, and then you could just have a whole desert for a home. Just be all alone in the desert.
That is very tempting. But just more generally, these books are not making me more optimistic about um, my ability to control my life and my decisions and my actions. Like, if anything, it's been rather decreasing.
But it's not as bad as in these books. Your life's better than that. You can get through this existential crisis.
Well, let's talk about this at the end of the series.
That's true. Yeah.
We'll have to.
Yeah, we'll tab that one.
Like, right now, I don't have the sense that things are going to get better. So
Yeah, it doesn't strike me as a happy ending kind of series.
yeah, someone might end up being happy, but
It depends on what you define as happy.
maybe ignorance. Ignorance is bliss. Maybe everyone's gonna be super happy. Just plug into the matrix.
Just plug in and relax.
The Icaries come back alive and Sabon dies at the end. Katerina loves it.
I would love that simulation.
Sarsalis shows back up, and he's actually the leader of the whole world. The thing called Steve rejoices.
It's King Saban. Don't forget King Saban.
Oh, that's right. I thought it was the little part about the Holy War and how it's traveling was interesting. Like they're choosing to travel slowly so they can keep their supply trains until the last moment when they take what they called was the leap. Which sounds like a leap of faith, right?
Sounds like a cult.
And then they're assuming they can just forage for food after that the rest of the way because they're not going to have anything else. So they'll spread out eventually. But currently, they're all stuck together. And Sorwell finally realizes he's like in a group of himself. That Scion group is just a whole bunch of prisoner princes.
Mm-hmm.
He makes a friend.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see that.
I mean, finally, he has someone he can talk to and who more or less understands his situation. I thought it was very sweet when he got to meet Zaranga.
And they're the young protagonists. And when I read them, I can tell that they're young. Because they're just discovering things. It's interesting. Whereas Akamian knows, but then he's wrong in the end. And he knows again.
No, I appreciate it as well. He does read very young, and it's very, I don't know, I just find it's very endearing. Like, he's such a sweet, sweet person. I really enjoy
Porcelain
his chapters.
sausage.
The sausage. Yeah. I think it was a nice change from going from people like Kellis and Akamian and even Espinette in a way that they know so much and about the world and history and everything by now. So it's kind of nice reading someone who's kind of feeling the way, kind of just trying to survive and make their way through. And it seems like they're being manipulated too. Like they're just there to serve an end. But it was nice him and Sorwheel making a friend and kind of someone he can relate to.
Yeah, and I mean, I really enjoyed sort of the conflict that he's going through. Like, on one hand, he's the king of Sicarpus, and he's supposed to avenge his father, and he's like kind of expected to avenge his people and defy the Aztec emperor. But on the other hand, he's also just a kid, and he's kind of excited about being on the road, like being part of an army, and excited about the opportunity to finally engage in a battle and make a name for himself. I think it's pretty interesting conflict. Usually, I don't know, like I guess usually when you get these kind of stories where like someone's father is killed and they have to avenge him, or they have to like reclaim their title, it's all like they're like very, very focused and very driven, and usually the story is about like them getting their revenge, but this is more about him sort of realizing that it's very easy to become complacent. It's not, it's really hard to stand up for yourself in this kind of situation. So I really enjoying this story, and he's a really relatable character, and he's just so ignorant about the world. He's so lost, um which makes him, yeah, like just relatable. um and maybe less weary and less corrupted than the older characters, as you mentioned.
It feels like they're kind of prisoners and kings just by name only. That they're being, and I don't want to say they're being instructed, but they're following certain instructions and doing what they're told, and it's just kind of a name only. It seems like.
Yeah, they're more like hostages than guests or willing participants, I would say.
Who is Espinette and Nathanette also kind of like hostages in a sense?
Mm.
Well, I guess if you're a hostage, there has to be someone who is potentially willing to pay ransom for you, right? Like, there has to be another party that you negotiate with, that the captor can negotiate with. I don't think Esmonette has anyone apart from Kellis who would want to save her. Same for Nathanette. So I'm not 100% sure I agree with that analogy.
I don't know either. Kellis might also be just the same as Sorville, but to the gods. Who knows how manipulated anybody is at this point?
Yeah.
If the White Luck Warrior, like, it all started 1400 years before he's finally the White Luck Warrior, then that's like a long laid plan. Or maybe he was just a bargaining chip in the background, and that the Outlaw decided to use. It's hard to say at this point, but you could speculate all of these things currently.
Yeah.
You could. I also really enjoy the fact that we learn more about other parts of the three seas in this chapter, particularly about Zeum. The- Like that's part of the continent that it gets mentioned a few times, but it doesn't play any role as far as I remember in the Prince of Nothing. So this is kind of the first time we actually get to learn a little bit more about that country and its people. And I get these like kind of like African, maybe North African vibes from the way it's described. Um, it's just, I mean, it's just nice to know that there is more to this continent than the few nations that we got to know during the Holy War.
And Sorrel has like never seen anyone from Zoom before, so he's taken aback, kind of. And then gets called a sausage a bunch.
A bunch. Yeah.
Yeah, racism is definitely a thing in these books. What do they call a commune or the like the Ketchai in the north? It's the Picts, right? They always call him the Pick.
Yeah, and then there's like the shit herders. I can't remember any of this Sylvandi's like slurs, but there was a bunch of them. Everyone's got their slurs, but at the same time, as I guess as far as slavery goes, they'll just make anyone who's not them a slave. Kind of like every nation considers every other nation inferior if they're capable of it. And then
Yeah, I don't think there is any racial aspect to slavery. As you said, they just if they can, they'll just enslave anybody.
and then it talks about the different way that Sora Will's dad got taken over by Tellus, and I think Stronga is his name, got taken over. And Stronga says, "Sometimes I envy the dead among you. Sometimes he wishes his dad would have fought and he would just be dead too."
That's a pretty strong statement to make in the face of someone who's just lost his father. But I guess the Zeumi have different like they just think about death differently. They have a different relationship to their ancestors. I think I don't know if it's in this part, so do stop me if it's I mean it's not really spoilers
They
anyway.
worship events, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of like the deeds of their ancestors is what kind of makes them like like what would kind of sort of defines their like maybe like social status as well. So it's like having someone like having a someone like dead ancestor who did something great is like it's a good thing. Like they have like a more I guess maybe like more direct relationship with their dead. I don't know.
Yeah, they reminded me of the Kingsguard books. Like whenever one of them died, they just added to the story, and like at one point they say we have a book that describes our history, and the book never ends until the line ends. And so, just like you're saying, yeah, they can be like, "Oh, my great great grandpa just killed this guy and sunk all those ships," then that is their worship.
Yeah. So it makes sense that if from, in some respects, it would be more honorable, or it would be more honorable for him to have his father, the Zoranga's father, fight Kellis and die a hero or a warrior, than to enter into be alive, but just enter into negotiations with Kellis and sort of give into Kellis's influence to some extent, at least.
feel dumb, but I can't think of the word for it. Like when the ninjas and samurais would commit Bushido, is that what it was called? Where they would just fall on their swords?
Yeah.
So. Harakiri?
Yeah, maybe that's right.
Yeah.
But it's like on Earthbound.
Yeah, I guess kind of like that. And I think Sorwheel gets a teacher at the end of the chapter. Like he gets a teacher assigned by Cayutas.
His own mandate teacher. Thantius Aeschylus, I guess.
Yeah.
Do what he tells you, basically.
Oh yeah, and he had to get taught how to bow.
Don't look. What was it? Don't. So he kind of stare at his shoes until he can't look him in the eye. Until he's dressed.
Look 1 meter in front of your feet, or something like that.
It is seppuku, by the way.
Seppuku.
Yeah, that does sound familiar.
I'll remember it again for 3 months.
Yeah. But we did have. I did think it was pretty interesting the way that the kids stick together, because they can spot skin spies, or a couple of them can. So to protect themselves, protect each other, and I got the impression just they only trust each other too.
I don't think Kelmomus trusts anyone.
No.
But if you're talking about the 3, yeah, probably.
I think
we'll get into that in a minute.
That family is semi-fractured at this point. Filiopa might be the most normal one that's left there. Nathanette's normal, but he's not technically part of that family. And what was his name? Inraltis is like screaming about God when he walks by. And they said he just screams and screams and he screamed until his voice broke. It was strange.
Almost
Yeah,
like
but I think it's
feel these kids.
Yeah, I think it's the first time we get a glimpse of Surwa, is her name, right? In the tent. She's in the tent with Moengas and Cayutas. But I'm not sure I can gauge what kind of relationship they have at this point.
It was like a young version of the darkness that comes before, because we had Surwa, Moengus, and Kiyuta.
Yep, a little like, Kellis,
yeah,
a little Serway, and a board mare, all in a tent together with some little 16-year-old prince.
But I did get the impression that he's like the lead, like he's like at the bottom of their priorities. Like they just do not care about him at all. Like he's only there because Kellis thinks he's somehow valuable. But I think everyone else just kind of forgotten about him.
About
in that part.
Moingus or
About Sorwheel.
That a part about when he was just thinking about betrayal and how, like, you tell yourself you got to wait for the right moment to attack, but then you start committing one betrayal upon the next betrayal until you're the Nansar trading with the Phantom. Just all the betrayals. You don't hate each other anymore. You're just at a stalemate. Or you become a believer. Maybe he's going to become another believer.
Yeah, it does. I don't remember what the book is called, but there is a book that I think we read at school where it's. I think the main protagonist he's a spy. I think he's like an American spy in Nazi Germany, and in order to be a spy, he kind of he like he lives with the Germans. He's with the Nazis, and he kind of does things as a Nazi that he wouldn't otherwise do, but he does them so he can spy on them, and then kind of it becomes very blurry. Like, is he still just a spy, or is he effectively has he effectively become um, Nazi himself? Um, so it's hard. I don't envy Sorwheel his position at all.
there was something that I'm not sure if I missed, but on 253, it mentions that the let me see if I can find it. That they he described how the two of them, Hero and King, defeated the No God in his consult at Cathal Pass, and so purchased a year's respite for the entire world. It was a year?
So okay, well, now we're talking about a commune and the scalpus, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. I skipped ahead a little bit. I had down betrayal, so that's why I went to that. But yeah, I'm sorry. I skipped ahead a little bit.
The Sorwheel part, both of Sorwheel and his friends, both the Zueni or whatever, they both repelled the No God. So their peoples had like lived forever and ever, and then Kellis just took them.
Did the No God ever reach Zeum? Like, didn't it got killed or destroyed in at Mangetta? Isn't Zeum like south of Mangetta?
I'm not sure. Look at the map.
Let's look at the map. I think it's like southwest.
I haven't mapped the path of the No God, but this.
Well, unless you can see it. I think Mengetta's somewhere here. And then Zeum is like this part. So I don't think maybe it didn't get
stayed
there.
on the long side the whole time and then came up.
I got the impression that they've just been isolated for a really long time. And no one actually it's like it was either the Norserai fighting amongst themselves or the Catchai trying to conquer one another, so they never actually bothered or never had the strength to go out and try to invade or conquer Zeum.
Maybe that was it.
But I mean, I could be wrong though. Like, that's just what I assumed.
Someone will remind us in the comments eventually.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, we need a crash course on the history of Zeum.
I have a link to the history of Irwa. It's probably got it all on.
But I guess we can move on to a commune now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. I don't know why this chapter was there at all. Like, honestly, I don't feel like anything happened. Like, except like the only important thing in that chapter is we finally know what the non-man looks like, and then we get to know a little bit about the history of Sil Auges or Kill Auges or whatever it's supposed to be pronounced. But I felt like it just could have been it just could have been merged with another chapter. Like, it did feel a little bit redundant. Like, we already know we're going to Moria, so why keep us waiting?
Jamoria, yeah. Yeah, it did seem a little anticlimactic. Kind of maybe a little bit of a refresh. There wasn't a whole lot.
Well, we do learn that the non-man look very similar to the Shrank.
Yeah.
And Akamian calls them the true version of ruin. Instead
Well,
of like a
three
building.
true versions. But he has a preference for one of them.
Oh yeah, when he tells the story of how it fell, he was saying the non-men themselves are the true version of ruin. Since the womb plague and all the dead females, and then time upon time of repetition until his whole life is like a broken ruin. You think of like the soul as a temple. His soul is so vast that he can't maintain it all.
It doesn't even have to be a temple. I'm just thinking about my apartment. Like, it's too much. And it's literally like one room with a bed.
And then that also, like, there's the moment where I forgot what he started yelling, but he started yelling something. The captain comes over and he's like, "That was 1,000 years ago, you idiot." And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's right. You just remembered something."
Yeah, I mean, we're going to learn more about the non-men, so I don't want to say too much. But Baker, I think he really, what's so great about the non-men is he really gives you an idea of what it would be like to live for so long if life was not all like flowers and rainbows, as you get the sense that it is for like maybe, you know, the kind of elves that live in Tolkien's books or books that are similar to Tolkien. Like he really he it did change my the way I think about, you know, immortality and what it would be like to live for such a long time.
Mine too. Don't tell anyone who says they would want to that they're not thinking about it right.
It sounds good, but a couple thousand years later, it's
I wonder. Like, there's a part of me that thinks I would, like, maybe you just don't even need to remember things, like, you know. So maybe if I just forget everything, I'm, you know, like every 100 years, I might just sort of start over, and would be fine. But yeah, maybe I would just end up the same as the non-men. Who knows?
who knows?
How many years does an immortal person have to work before he can retire?
It's a good question.
Maybe one day humanity will have to ask that question.
Yeah, if you're immortal, I think you have some options there, though. Not to worry about a career so much. Just have to. Eventually, everyone that knows you will die off, and you can just start over again.
Yeah, just invest into some property early on, and you'll be fine.
It's a long-term investment.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add to that chapter.
The
My
part where
notes.
they scribble in their company symbol and it just looks like chicken scratch compared to the monoliths that the non-men spent thousands of years making.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
it does give you a perspective, and I guess it would make me feel pretty small if I was standing there underneath a huge carved temple and
and
saw
then,
some scalpers scrabbling some graffiti.
but Sarah's unperturbed. He says they were destined to go there. He's surprised they haven't been there yet. It's the slog of slogs.
There was a little interaction with Rhaenyra that I thought was pretty funny. N- Nilla Menchi mentions you have the look and the manner of a lady, and she responds, "My mother was a whore." I just thought that was hilarious when I read it. Just her delivery.
Well, it's not untrue.
Yeah, just I kind of growing to like her a lot.
She's pretty cool.
She's
So
more
is
innocent
it?
than most of the people. We have like a handful of innocent people that don't have any magic stain or damnation stain, I guess.
Sorry. I'm just
I think
thinking
this.
about stains now.
Yeah,
Reminds
yeah,
you of
I
that
see where you're going with that.
party at Patsman and Furry's underlayer.
Yeah, it's hard to unthink that.
Yeah.
So, was there anything about the history of Stellages that you were confused about, Steve? Like you mentioned
No,
earlier.
I think just it mentions the year of respite. I wasn't sure if that's something that they've talked about before. The year. I wonder why it was a year of respite.
I think like that no god was trying to go through the long side of the mountain, which is like on the far left side of the mountain, and they had a fight in the past, and it repelled them for a year and just saved the rest of the world from being destroyed that much sooner.
Oh, I see.
Gave them a year to prepare.
Hmm.
So I think we can move on to the little ninja.
The last chapter. Yeah, it was a short chapter, but a fair amount happens. The little ninja.
You can dodge blood. That's pretty impressive.
It was quite impressive. But the one I wasn't quite sure I understood what Kilmomus's motivation was. Like why did he decide to kill what's her name? Um, wait, I did write it down somewhere. The matriarch.
Sherison.
Saracen? Yeah, probably. That sounds about right. Why did he decide that she needs to be killed? I didn't quite catch that.
Kind of just thought he was playing around, like just doesn't really see people as people in his mind, he's just playing a game, but I'm not sure there's another reason for it.
Just another day on the playground.
Yeah, just stabbing people in the face.
Yeah, I don't know either at this point. Maybe there was that weird part where he's like thinks he smells better than everyone. He
Yeah.
smells better than his dad. And then he smells her, and then he goes and picks up a knife. There is the part like if he is trying to isolate Esmet and like only wants her to be happy and focusing on him, she was taking away his attention, stressing Esmet out. Maybe he thinks he's handling a problem, not creating the biggest problem.
So you think he doesn't realize that by removing her, he's basically making Esmenet more vulnerable to the cult and to Yatwer?
Maybe
Like the backlash that'll come from people just assuming that she was the one who ordered the assassination.
And if that's true, there's also the part where it's like, if I found a skin spy, I would just leave them and just toy with them. I would just hint that I knew who they were.
And watch him and spy on them. Yeah.
Because spying is his favorite thing to do, maybe besides finally ending the spying. Who knows his motivations? Maybe it's Sammy. Maybe he's not doing anything. Maybe Sammy really died a long time ago. Maybe this was never Sammy. It's all speculation at this point.
Yeah, well, the voice inside his head seems to be very cautious when it comes to Kellis and Kellis discovering them. And Kel Moments does not necessarily seem to have that fear. Like it's always the voice that keeps reminding him how dangerous Kellis is.
Yeah, he's a loose fuse with some inhuman blood.
Yeah.
There was one little detail when he's climbing out of the palace. He's talking about like the position of the guards, and so on. But he also says that he can see the sorcerer's wards around the palace, and it did make me wonder if that's supposed to hint at him being one of the few. Because I think only sorcerers. Sorry?
It seems like most of his kids could have the gift. Besides Sammy, I guess, because he was just happy. He was just a happy kid.
Well, I think Serwa is the only one that we know of who has the gift. But yeah, it made me wonder if Kelmomus is also a potential young sorcerer. Because I think it's only the few that can see, like they can see sorcery, and only someone who is a sorcerer could see the wards as well.
Do you guys remember Kelmomus anywhere before in the book?
What
the history of?
There's another Moingus. There's another.
Oh, the other Kelmomus.
Yeah, what did he do?
Oh. Well, he died.
Well, yeah.
I think that's kind of the important. Well, from what we know, that seems to be like the important thing he did. Yeah, but There is another Calmomus with a C, I believe, who he was the Kunyeric king, Siswatha's friend.
So do you think Kellis names his kids or Estinet names his kids?
That's a
Maybe
good
Kellis.
question.
Is there any rhyme or reason to it? I don't know. I'm just saying it's kind of weird.
Well, I think we know that he named Moangus to kind of spite Neor. I guess it makes sense that they would want to honor Surway.
Estinet chose Sarway and he just said, okay, remember that part.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Forgot about that. Well, Kyudas also does sound like it's been derived from now Coyote. Filiopa, I don't know. Enreladas, I don't know.
I don't know either. Maybe there's no rhyme or reason to any of it.
The
But
thing
it's
I'm
just
more
interesting.
yeah, I don't know if there is any connection or. I mean, there certainly is a connection between Moangas and Nayor, and Moangas. Well, Moangas and Moangas. I don't know if there is any connection between Kalmomas and Kalmumas. I'm more the part that I found a little bit nagging is how the names changed, like how the C's turn into K's and vice versa. There doesn't seem to be like any like specific logic to it. I find that a little bit disturbing. I like order. I like to make sense of things, and it's not helping. It's not helping with pronunciation either.
Somewhere in the first series, there's like 3 pages of dialect and like sub-dialect, the root languages and all the bastard languages that spawned from them, and then the ones that died, and then the ones that got mixed together. So who knows what's happened in this 1,000 years since the K and the C, or the C and the K.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll go back and reread and see if I can find some rules that would explain to me how those changes occur and how on earth I'm supposed to pronounce those. Like, how am I supposed to pronounce Kelmomas and with a C the same? Am I supposed to pronounce it the same way? Like, is Kelmomas with a C pronounced just like Kelmomas with a K? I don't know. Oh, I want some clarity.
Maybe one day we'll get it. Maybe I'll go look through some old Baker interviews and see. Can't really remember any like after the series was completish though.
Yeah, yeah. If you ever get to interview our Scott Baker, Steve, like the most important question is just ask him about the K's and the C's.
If I ever get a chance to interview Baker, both of you will be there with me.
Okay, I will ask him about the K's and the C's then.
Okay.
Wow, we made it to a minute and 14. I did in like 7 pages.
Yeah.
Or an hour and 14 minutes, I mean.
All the death and destruction the little ninja caused is once again putting Espinette in this position of feeling that people don't trust her. Like they need Kellis to tell them what to do. They don't really listen to her, and it seems like she's just getting deeper and deeper in this doubt, this feeling like people don't trust her, don't have faith in her.
It seemed like Kellis came all the way back across like half the world just to set things right. And the one person he set them right with is now a trap, kind of. It was going to be
Yeah.
a good thing, and now it's the worst thing that could have happened, maybe.
And I think Maythenet mentions at the very end that the circumstances of what happened are kind of incalculable for him. So I guess it confirms that Kalmomus is a factor that no one has factored into their calculations. Yeah, it does not seem that Kellis is aware of the Kelmomus and what he's been up to, and neither is Maythenet. He's the sort of rogue element in all this.
Causing lots of panic, or concern at least, that there's skin spies among them.
And he's not helped the situation with the Yatuarian cult, for sure.
I'm glad that Chucky was just like a dumb little smartass baby, not someone who can read your thoughts, baby.
He's just so malicious. It's crazy. I think there was a quote at the beginning of one of the chapters about fools and then children.
A fool's mistake.
I don't know if it was
Fool's
mistake.
hurts only himself. A king's mistake hurts everybody else.
Yeah, everyone but them.
Yeah, that's one of them. But no, the one I'm thinking about, I think it appeared in one of the earlier chapters. Oh, like it's actually in the prologue, and it says, when a man possesses the innocence of a child, we call him a fool. When a child possesses the cunning of a man, we call him an abomination. As with love, knowledge has its season. I'm pretty sure that's refers to Kalmomas.
Yeah, that's safe to say. The one quote I thought was really good that was small. It was, the fewer the roads, the harsher the codes. The further away from humanity you get, just the more humanity deteriorates, kind of. And it seems to be true.
It certainly seems to be true for the scalpers.
Mm-hmm. The chapter ended on a little bit of a kind of what's going to happen next. So these last four, I know Katerina and Daniel, you have an idea already, but kind of wondering what's going to happen, because usually these books, like we talked about earlier, end off on some kind of semi cliffhanger. So
Someone said this next chapter is really good.
someone.
This is one of my favorite endings to a Baker book, so I hope you'll enjoy it as well. Once we get to it.
One more week.
Yep.
Is that it? Four more chapters left?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
But they're pretty long. Just beware. I think two of them are like at least 60 pages.
Oh wow.
Which is why I read ahead.
I'll start reading on Wednesday then. Start reading one day earlier than I usually do.
Well, chapter 13 starts on 277. Oh, yeah, it's over 100 pages. Oh, yeah. It's like 150 pages. Cool. Yeah, I'll just start that one early this week.
Thanks for the warning.
You're welcome.
Could have been up all night Thursday night.
I also think it might be. Well, I don't know if you get the chance, but I think it might be worth reading the two Still August chapters back to back. They're quite intense.
Intense. A little bit worried when I hear intense and Baker together.
But okay, don't get your expectations too high. It's, as I said, it's one of my favorite endings. It might not be one of yours. You know, those things happen.
I say fun. I think it gets kind of fun.
Not necessarily a word I would use to describe the ending.
Steve's someone who can go watch a horror movie and have fun.
Yeah. That's
Okay,
true.
in that case, maybe yes.
Amusing.
Yeah, that's a better word.
Yeah.
Fun implies that I'd just join in on the horror, I guess.
Yeah.
But I like to watch a car crash when I drive by. Maybe that's what I mean. Amusing.
Not my style of entertainment, I have to admit.
Yeah, most people don't like to say it is, but every time I ever drive by a car crash, every car slows down by like 30 miles an hour just to watch and drive
Just
by.
to get a peek.
Yeah, nobody wants to be involved, but from far away, stunts are fun.
Well, we'll talk about how much fun you had reading these last 4 chapters next week, I guess.
We'll find out.
Deal.
Cool. Anything else you guys can think of?
There is one little detail I found interesting during the audience in at the Edemanian Heights. Do you remember the birds in Darkness That Comes Before
Yeah.
that were there that pooed on Zarius?
Yeah.
Well, it's from what I read, seems that someone from the New Empire decided to put a net on the windows so the birds can't get in. And I thought it was just a little interesting detail, which that maybe it's supposed to tell you something about Callus and the New Empire and how he controls his environment. I don't know. It's just a little detail that I came across when I was reading those chapters.
Sammy loved to go up and let them go.
Yeah, and Kelmomus thought about squashing them with something, if I remember well.
He wished he had a rock, but instead he just had a little knife.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, he was going to throw rocks at them.
And there also, just a small thing, was the talk of the Finale Al Cascamandri, like getting more bold and more bold outside of the city, and he has Sishwarin, so he still has mages on his side, wizards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see if he's going to play a role.
Well, that's at least two detractors, two fronts of assault to Essenet at this point. Three if you count Little Kel. He's really unknowingly assaulting Galat too.
Yeah.
For mental health, anyways. Now her safety.
He's taking resources away from the other threats. Looking forward to the fun last 4 chapters. We'll find out. Well, cool. So 4 more to go with the judging eye. We'll get to those next week. So, Katerina, do you want to tell everyone where they can reach you and tell you how wrong you are about the history of Prince of Nothing?
You are more than welcome to shout at me on the page chewing forum. And I'm also on Instagram at the errand.
Awesome. And Daniel, where can people get you to respond?
You can just comment in the comment section and we can discuss the difference between mules and horses and all the other incorrect things that I've said so far.
I mean, you kind of figure we've done how many of these? It's been going for a few months. We're bound to see something wrong, right? I mean, we're only human. We're not AI, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would be curious how much AI knows about the history of Seum.
I'm gonna try to have ChatGPT write my notes for the next 4 chapters as soon as I get off.
Cheater. Yeah. Well, cool, everybody. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll catch everyone next week for the fun finale of the Judgy Die.